I thought this was sort of an interesting, there's a bunch of different ways to go at this question. Iggy asked a question around this, and Hex also. Session templates for mixing, for production, how often do you change them? Also routing in sessions. I think maybe I'll give my answer first. I know you've talked about, you have a pretty standard. Well, maybe you go first and then I'll expand, because you do a narrower thing of just you are a mix engineer doing thing, at least for now. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I would probably have the same for a tracking template in a sense too. Because I have 5 basic effects that come in, and I have 8 basic subgroups that come in that I would want from tracking purposes as well. Something that I think gets overlooked and nobody talks about is don't use numbered buses. Name your bus. It's very easy. So if you name the aux and you option shift and group things together and select where to send them and you go to track, it'll name it for you.
It'll say reverb, the name of the bus.
It will send it, so you'll always know. Now, if you're the genius that knows what bus 1, 2 through 23, 24 are in your template, great. I think that's a waste of intellectual bandwidth that you'll have for other things going forward. So your basic setups, like I have a Bricasti remake, and I have a Megaverb remake. That's like a really long, luscious verb, and I have 3 simple delays: a mono slap, and an eighth and a quarter, and a half. So I have that, and it's set up, and they're labeled such, so there's never a confusion. If I need a dope quarter note tape delay, I can get that in a split second, and it's there. Now, for more creative sound design, do things accordingly. Don't use a template for that. I think it's cool. Like when I worked with Tony, if we had a cool effect, we would add it to the template. And that would change weekly. I think that's a cool approach. It got too much to me because the whole end of the session would have it, and then the sessions would be bigger than I want. But we would have them inactive, so it wasn't like... So that's a cool way to do it. I don't disagree with that approach. I think if you want to keep adding effects to your template and keep them inactive for... CPU consumption, that's cool, and you know what's in there. Like, what was that weird flanger chorus thing that we did? Like, that's cool. Like, make that. I just can remember what songs I use these things on, so I'll bring them in. I'll be like, that Uber mod thing with the tall chorus added to it. I did that on that Khalid record. Let me bring that in. Like, I could find that, and I could bring that stuff in because you have import session data. But basic, simple, easy to understand, color coordinated, the way you want it. And so you can fly through sessions. Like I use a trackpad, so I'm constantly gesturing up. I'm like flying around from vocals to drums. So it's very basic, very simple, very important.
Yeah, it gets back to the larger conversation we've had before about organization. If you want to be a music professional, or even if you want to be a hobbyist, if you can spend the time to get your organization right, whether that's literally the routing in your studio, whether that's making sure you don't have a bunch of plug-in, like confirmations of your iLock and all that kind of stuff every time you open a session, whether that's having everything named and color coordinated. If you can spend some time getting all that organized, it's going to make your workflow so much better. You will make better work more quickly, because a big part of our job is getting...
Actually Today, Josh just came in. I haven't seen him since before Christmas. He's updating Pro Tools and the computer. I have 2 new plugins I want to install and go through the template. And just that's what today is. Today is so for the rest of the year, all we have to do is, that effect, I changed the feedback number from 70% to 40%. Like we'll change those things on effects. If I think that a shorter verb has been more on the average of what tempos and what lengths of songs and feelings I've been getting, like I'll change it accordingly like that. But that's what today is. Today is an admin day and an update day.
Organization and preparation. Those are very similar things. I'll go through all that stuff. I'll go through mine really quick. So I work in both Ableton and Pro Tools. I'm generally... now completely writing things in Ableton. I've occasionally finished a few things in Ableton, but I mostly bring them into Pro Tools to either cut serious vocals and or mix. I have separate templates for both, although I need to update. That's one of the things I'm going to do this week, update my Pro Tools template now that I've been doing different stuff and working in Ableton a bunch. But my Ableton template is purely for writing. So I have like 5 battery kits of different, whether it's a spectrum of sounds or just a percussion kick or just kicks. I have a few 808s. I have 4 or 5 synths. I have the routing for all my all my synths and shit here. I have vocal stuff. I have basically I have everything set up for anything I would want to do. I can just plug in and go. Guitar, bass, DIs, all that stuff set up in Ableton. That's for sort of writing and creativity. And then Pro Tools, I have a simpler template, which is a holdover from when I was doing writing in Pro Tools, but is more mixing oriented with sends and name things like that. But the other thing I would say, in addition to people having your basic template, maybe you just have one, maybe you have one for mixing, if you do mixing and writing, whatever, is, and we've talked about this before, creating your own chains. So in Pro Tools, you can select and say import not import session data, although that's another thing, so you could do that, but just import the track settings. Yep. And it gives you like, here's a distorted vocal template with a slap delay that you like. So you don't actually have to have all those things in a session. So you can have 4 or 5 different reverb, delay, send things, and just pick one by just selecting import I don't know if it's import or track settings or whatever.
It's by the plugin. It's also like you're adding a plugin and you're adding a chain. It's right below that.
So making chains is a really important thing too. So a template plus chains. 'Cause chains are, like you said, if you did an amazing thing on a Khalid mix and you're like, I made this adjustment and it has this cool throw and it's slightly different, then you have that somewhere. You have that setting saved so you can bring it in. So I think both templates and chains.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the chains, like why I don't like when people use the Maserati vocal plugin on a vocal or a CLA vocal is make your own chain. Like that's what they're doing. And if you need that to get there fast and that's what you think, well, spend a day making a vocal chain that you think is better and then import that every time instead. It takes the exact same amount of time. It's actually, I think it's almost easier because you're going to go to a menu that has less things in it than the a million plugin menu that you have. You're going to bring in your chain and it's going to sound tight already.
Here's the thing for everybody to do in 2021. If you make something that sounds dope, save it. And use it again in the future. Even if it's like, I made a dope beat and I love that snare drum, sample that snare drum and put it in a folder. If you make a cool vocal sound for some weird thing, save it, mark it, label it, save the track, save the template, make a folder of all of your chains, like save your shit. You're going to be so excited when you're just like, oh, I'm going to take that thing that I did 6 months ago.
It's 47 minutes in. I haven't really done it besides starting with the oyster shuck injury. Yo, if you make a dish that you love, make it again. I made the same Yaya's Turkish stuffing.
Write down the recipe.
2-3 days in a row because I wrote it down and I'm going to make it and I'm going to get it to be the best it possibly can. It's the same thing with vocal chains. Just keep making them.
And by the way, thank you for the recommendations on the Ottolenghi books. I got the 2 and my girl loves them and has started making stuff and the food is already delicious. Shout out Ottolenghi and Jon and cooked by Jon Castelli. What's the Instagram? Yeah. Is it a secret? Oh, sorry.
Frank is also a great chef reference from Kid Cutler.
Oh, I don't know about all that. Teach me more stuff.
Just watch his Instagram videos. He's tight.